Hi everyone, I'm GREYMOND. This is OCD Recovery Q&A. I'm going to be answering questions that you left below any of my videos. I get them all the time, so if you would like to for me to answer something, please leave it below this video as well. And you can ask as many questions as possible. We do this once a week. So let's get to the first question. Hi Ali, you said that it's good to keep yourself occupied in order not to ruminate. But what about the times you're not occupied? Like for example, just laying in bed or just being alone with your thoughts. Is it good to just be alone with the thoughts, or do I have to keep myself occupied all the time? So with that, you want to make sure that you're not being occupied out of fear. So again, the most important thing in OCD recovery is the message that you send to the brain. The more you send to your brain that this is an important thought, the more of this thought you are going to get. To reiterate what I say on every show, because it is important to, even if you heard it a million times, it's important for you to hear it because it gets into the subconscious in a way that you start to consciously remember that this is the right way to do things and why this is happening to me. Okay, so again, let's go over it. The mind has no idea what type of thought you're having, why are you reacting with fear. It just understands that continuously, whenever it sends you the thought on this one topic, or say 2 or 3 topics, you react. You react with a lot of fear. You try to protect yourself through reassurance. You're acting as if this is a real fear. Your mind sees that and sends it more to you in order to try to help make sure you know about the danger. Because again, it views this as a real danger, as a real fear, because that's kind of the, the impression that you're giving to your mind by reacting, right? So because of that, it doesn't matter what kind of thought you're having, what kind of thoughts you're having, your mind is coming up with the worst possible scenario on the topic that you fear the most. So no matter how bad your thoughts are, no matter how scary they are, no matter how guilty you feel, all of it doesn't matter. As long as you keep reacting to whatever it is, you can be reacting to the silliest thing, but as long as you keep reacting to it, you're going to get the same thing. So in order for you to shift how your mind is viewing the thought, you have to stop reacting to it with fear. Even though you're going to feel fake at first, you're going to feel extremely uncomfortable, the anxiety is going to go through the roof because your mind is going to basically pull out all the stops to get you to react. So even though all of that is going to happen, you have to stay strong and continue to push through. And then once your mind sees that no matter really what it's doing, you're still standing strong, you're no longer reacting with fear, then it's going to stop giving you these thoughts and you're going to stop basically experiencing OCD, and that's how OCD goes away. So, so that reaction is really important, and sometimes it's a very fine line between like how your reaction and the compulsions. So for example, this is a great example of that. So when you are trying to keep yourself occupied, if you are keeping yourself occupied with the kind of thought of, I'm so scared, I don't want to get another OCD thought, I better stay really busy so I don't get another thought, that's a position of fear. You're doing that because you're very afraid and you are just trying your best not to get a thought. That shows that this thought is important to you, that it is relevant, that you are in fear, and your mind is going to give you more thoughts. If you come from a position of, I'm sick of this, I'm not spending any more time dealing with this, I'm going to choose to do something else because I'm just done with this, that doesn't show fear. That's a position of power. Your mind sees that, and it's not going to send you more. Well, I mean, it might send you more thoughts initially, but you are moving in the right direction of recovery because those channels of fear that are connected right to this thought are dying out. You're not using them, so that's the right way to handle it. Right? And technically, so in terms of the action, you are doing the same thing. You're focusing on something else. But the reason why is very, very different. So, so you want to focus on something else, but only from a position of power. And then in terms of should you stay occupied the entire time? No, because you don't want it to become a compulsion. But at the times when you are not occupied, when you have a lot more time to kind of have these thoughts, you want to make sure that you are reacting to the thoughts correctly. And really, before, say for example, if you are say you get a lot of thoughts, you have a lot of time to ruminate at night, for example, right? So before you're going to bed, you kind of have to have a mental talk with yourself and say, okay, you know what? I'm gonna get thoughts. When I do, I'm not gonna react to them, because this is the time when I have the most fails is bedtime, for example, right? And really kind of make sure that you are very focused on not allowing the thoughts to come in during this time. So because if you're prepared for the thoughts to come in, then when they come in, you're like, oh, I know this game, I'm not playing it. And then you move on, rather than being surprised by it. Or why am I having this thought? What does it mean? Blah, blah, blah. You try to, figure it out. It gets worse, right? So if you're not doing any of that, you're meeting it on an equal playing field and saying, I know this game, I'm not participating in it anymore. And then the thoughts start to go away. So it's, but I would say, anyways, it's good to mix it up where you are allowing yourself to have time alone where thoughts can potentially come in. So you're not sticking to kind of a ritual, and not avoiding spending time by yourself in fear of the thoughts coming in. You should be okay. But if you're spending an excessive time of being by yourself all the time, that's not good. So you want to get back into society and back into active lifestyle, as well. So it's just mixing it up is the best way. Next question is, any advice on how to deal with overwhelming anxiety when beginning ERP? The fear and anxiety seems so real. How long does it take for you to recover 100%? Okay. So when you're starting ERP, right, if you look at it from a position of how your mind is viewing the thought, right? Your mind is viewing the thought as being very important. Like, to your mind, that is very important, right? To you, it's like, because you're making it out to be very important. It's not really, but, you're saying that it is when you're doing compulsions. And now, so that's what you were doing to kind of get yourself into OCD. Now you're saying, okay, I'm going to do ERP. I'm going to refuse. And to your mind, because your mind doesn't understand the thought, doesn't understand that it's fake. What it sees is you were in fear for a long time. And now all of a sudden you're actually refusing to pay attention to this fear, and you're putting yourself in situations where this fear comes up. So what is the mind to do, in this situation? The only thing it can possibly do is to send you more thoughts and get you more scared in order to get you to react. So you just have to kind of expect that, just like I said in the previous question. Expect it so it doesn't surprise you with fear. So you're seeing the thought coming in, but you're not reacting, you're just letting it be. And yes, what you're saying, that the fear and anxiety seem so real. In the beginning, yes, they will seem very real. Your mind is going to give you all the feelings, all the guilt. Sometimes you can even have physical sensations. Your mind is doing basically all it can to prevent you from refusing to give in to OCD. So you just have to let it be for now and not allow the fears to come in terms of, yes, they will come in, but paying attention to them is what you shouldn't be doing, So, but in the beginning, there's no way around having the fear and the increased anxiety. It's the first period of recovery where your mind is trying to get you back into reassurance, into fear. So you just have to go through it the best you can. Like I say in all my videos, think of yourself as like a tank. You're just mowing it down and you're just moving forward through it. How long did it take for you to recover? For me, it was a little bit different because I didn't have a plan or really a hope even in recovery. And I didn't really know for sure that not doing reassurance was the way out, because nobody taught me this. I just kind of kept trying of everything that trying to do reassurance, trying to do the checking. So I was doing everything and seeing no results. And by the method of elimination, really, I got to the conclusion that, reassurance is, you've been experiencing OCD for years. Reassurance is not really working, kind of obvious, but it's not so obvious when you're in pain, right? So for me, it took a lot longer because of that, because I was doing a lot of, basically all the stuff I tell you guys not to do, that a lot of the back and forth and one step forward, one step back, but really just confusing the mind further, not moving ahead in recovery. A lot of checking, a lot of reassurance, a lot of asking everybody around me. So if you go how I was going, you're going to be here for a long time, right? Because it took me probably, it's hard to say now because it's been so long, but probably about 2 years of that, just back and forth, and then 6 months of actual focused recovery where you kind of put your foot down and say, enough with this, I'm not dealing with this anymore, this is the same old stuff again, I'm done with it. And that it didn't really take that long. Once I got that resolved and I really saw that, yes, ERP is the way out, this is how I'm continuing. Once that happened, it happened really fast, actually. So, just a second, I'm just looking at the camera. So it really depends on how good you are in terms of ERP. You have to do exposures in order to recover. So the more exposures you do, the faster you're going to recover. So moving on to the next question is, how do you stop the reaction of fear? And to stop, okay, so there's 3 things here, okay? First, the thought is coming in. So you're getting a trigger is happening. What if something, right? So that's coming to you. You can't control that. Then the second part is you're getting the thought. So the trigger comes in, that's one, and then you react. So, oh my God, that really is real. That's your initial reaction. That's like first few seconds. That almost also comes on autopilot. So it's very, very difficult to control. And then after that, then starts the overthinking, analyzing, trying to figure it out. And that's your choice. That's something you're choosing to do, and not something you can very well control. And very well is kind of not at first maybe, but you can control it. Even at first, you can control it. It might be very difficult, but you can still say no. This is my usual theme. I'm not analyzing. And that's in the beginning, that's what I really want you to focus on. So that first initial reaction for a few seconds when you do get overwhelmed and you do start to pay a lot of attention to it, fine, whatever. That's just the first few seconds. It's not that big of a deal if you're not keeping it going afterwards as well. So yes, you got triggered for a second, but you remember that this is your OCD thought, your OCD theme that you're always having over and over again, and now you're moving ahead with non-reaction. So that's probably, especially in the beginning, that's the best way to handle it. Then as your anxiety goes down, you're going to be able to better control the thoughts and lower the anxiety overall. And when the anxiety is lower, you're going to be able to control that initial reaction as well. So it's not going to come on as strong. So next question is, I'm having trouble powering through my theme when I have an action that's associated with the theme. I'm trying to tell myself, nope, that it has to deal with my OCD theme, I'm moving on. But when I feel like I'm acting in a bad way, that's when it's harder. And I start to say, oh, this is wrong, I did wrong, I shouldn't have thought or done that. But without the thought, the act is normal. But why? So it's thought action fusion. So okay, yeah, so you have to refuse paying attention to it. It doesn't matter that it has to do with an action or a thought. So in terms of what you're saying, and what you are doing here is you're doing a lot. I'm just reading through the question. What you are doing here, you are doing a lot of compulsions as well, and that's the problem. That's what's happening. So you have to refuse compulsions, and you will start to feel better. So not checking, not trying to figure it out, not analyzing. Again, just like I said in the previous question, the thought happened, the initial reaction happened, but after that, you're not trying to figure it out, and by not trying to figure it out, you're going to control the thought from coming in less, the initial reaction, and then obviously the after effect as well. So it's just doing that and just pushing through. Somebody wrote 30 likes, no dislikes. That's for the previous video. 30 likes, no dislikes, enough said. Thank you. It's funny, but it's true because I'm very passionate about my channel because it's there's this cannot be what's happening. Do you know what I mean? I can't accept people suffering this much for absolutely no reason. And that's what OCD is. It's not some sort of a deep mental condition like it's like schizophrenia, which is, a biological thing. This is just a person is getting stuck on a thought, and there's an easy way out of it in terms of the mechanics of it. It's really easy. In terms of actually accomplishing it, yes, it is difficult because of all the fear, because of all the anxiety, but it needs to be said. This channel needs to happen. This Q&A need to happen because it's ridiculous that people all over the world are experiencing it, and this is happening all over the world. I have clients pretty much in every country, and it's unbelievably severe, unbelievably serious, and doctors just, for the most part, they just shake their head. I don't know how to help you. I don't know what to do. So I know what to do. I know how to help you. So listen to this show, and I promise you, you will recover. You have to do the work. When people contact me to start the recovery program, there's only one question I ask them is, are you ready to do the work? Because I can help you, but you need to be ready to do the work. And as long as you are, I can take you the rest of the way. But I need your participation, so that's the only thing that you need to recover. One more question. I hope you don't mind. No, I don't mind. As many questions as you can, as you want to ask me, ask me. When you have an OCD theme, no matter how long you have had it, is it always that OCD theme? Yeah, so it doesn't matter how long I'm just trying to understand what you're saying here. Yeah, it doesn't matter for how long you've had it. It doesn't, sometimes people have 2 or 3 themes, that's common as well. It's, you just have to understand that this theme or these themes is something I'm always having over and over again. It doesn't matter if it's been a month or, 40 years, 50 years. Doesn't matter, but you have to identify that this is clearly whatever relationship OCD or religious OCD or contamination OCD, and then refuse to give it any more energy, So next question is, I was completely relaxed before, then only when I heard the noise it made me uncomfortable. It's like my mind just went straight to blasphemous thought. Please help. Is this a trigger? Yeah, so it's a trigger, but you reacted. So you have to refuse any more reaction. And then also, because you've already reacted to noise as a possible trigger, it's going to trigger you again, most likely. So when it does, you have to kind of be prepared for it and not react any further. Another question is, can you explain what a trigger is? I ask because I am in recovery, as you know, but I didn't get nearly any thoughts today. But as I was lying down in bed, my brother, who was in the next room, made a noise that I think I would call a trigger. And this is I'm reading them backwards, the questions. So basically, the person is asking, what is it? So this is a trigger. A trigger is something that you experience just in regular life that makes you fall into OCD reassurance and makes you go into fear that has to do with your theme. Sometimes you can get an entirely new trigger that starts an entirely new theme, but most of the time it's the same old thing and whatever. Say, for example, if you're afraid of killing people, then anything to do with knives, and anytime you see a knife or anytime you see the object that you're afraid that you would kill somebody with, it becomes a trigger, so, or even on TV if you see it or somebody talks about it. So anything to do with the situation, that's when we're saying trigger, that's what we're talking about. Next question is, Ali, your videos have really helped. I just discovered them yesterday and they are so encouraging. I've been going to get rid of OCD for about a year now, and I've been starting to lose hope. And that's the thing, that's a big reason. I think I talked a lot about this on the last show, is that I've been there where you're like losing hope basically. I have a lot of food related OCD thoughts. I doubt that it's even OCD. It's something worse, but your videos has helped me regain my strength back, and I feel like I'm able to keep going. Thank you so much. So if you're listening to this video, chances are it's OCD, and you can ask in more detail for me to get a better understanding of what you're talking about. But yeah, it's, if you're getting better, this is how and I mean, like, this is so simplistic, right? But at the same time, it might not be obvious when you are suffering, right? If you are doing the ERP and you're not sure if you're doing it correctly or not, or how you're reacting to OCD thoughts, am I doing this recovery work correctly? The simple question is, are you feeling better or worse? If you feel more in control, you might still have a lot of thoughts, obviously, but if you feel more in control, more like, yes, I'm having a lot of thoughts, but the anxiety is kind of calming down faster, I'm not as triggered, I'm not as obsessed, then you're doing the right thing. If you feel like you're continuously getting worse, you're doing the wrong thing, and that wrong thing usually has to do with showing fear. That means somewhere in the process of between getting an OCD thought and your reaction, somewhere you're showing a lot of fear. It could be certain times of the day, like somebody was saying, right? Like at night it gets them because they're by themselves, or depends on your situation, right? But it's just recognizing what's happening, why it's happening, not in terms of solving the situation, but in terms of understanding why is it difficult, why is the recovery not working, and then fixing that specific problem, And this is, again, if you want to do the recovery program, this is exactly what we do in sessions, just with my help rather than by yourself. But if you want to do it by yourself, you definitely can do it by yourself as well. So next question is, So next question is, hi Ali, it's harder for me to recover because I have physical problem and it stops me from being around people. So I find it doesn't help my OCD. Like I become paralyzed in the thoughts that I have. It's like my OCD gets worse because of the lack of being able to be around people and be normal. What can I do? I am in recovery slowly. So you have to be around people more, because how we are treating OCD recovery is the same way you should treat, your other thoughts as well, that are maybe not entirely OCD, but are still intrusive anxiety thoughts that are unproductive. Is that this is not productive. This is also not really scary. It just makes me feel scared. And that's why I'm going to be around people as much as possible. It's like, how people have like fears of like public speaking or something like that. The more you talk in front of a large group of people, the easier it gets. Like I can tell you, in terms of that kind of stuff, right? I was a very, very shy individual, right? Most of my life. And right now, you can wake me up in the middle of the night and I can give you an entire speech on OCD recovery and, right away, right? So it's, it's just practice. Hi, Ali. When your mind is bored, say you're lying in bed and don't have energy to get out, and your mind starts on your OCD theme. Is this normal? Yes, because again, this is what I was saying before, that when you don't really have anything else to do, your mind will most likely drift to OCD. So be prepared that it will, and when it does, you have to refuse giving it energy. And if you're not strong enough to refuse, then I would suggest getting up and doing something else. Not from a position of fear, that's very important, not from a position of fear, but from a position of not dealing with this anymore, I'm done with this, I'm pushing through. So next question is, how do I choose to disregard? My body reacts and makes it feel so real, so it's hard to disregard it. It feels like I'm having a heart attack. It will feel like you're having a heart attack. It will feel very real, and you just have to choose to push through. That if you're gonna, it's like a fork in the road. You can choose to push through and, get better over time. Or you can choose to do the easy thing, which is the reassurance, feel better for a second, then get caught up in reassurance and then get into another thought and another theme. So it's like you can't continuously try to get out of OCD by continuous reassurance. So It's again, it's your body can react, and it makes it feel so real. But even with that feeling so real and with that reaction, you still need to say, yes, I'm experiencing that, but I'm like a tank pushing through, not reacting, not giving it energy. And the thoughts can stay right here, I'm going right here, I'm disregarding, and just going like that the entire day. And you will see that the more you choose to do it, the worse it gets. And then also the person says it affects my sleep. Yes, it can definitely affect your sleep in many different ways. It can affect the quality of your sleep. It can affect your dreams a lot of the time. So all of that is common. It's just how OCD goes. It just, at first few weeks, I would say, is the most difficult, and you can stretch those 2 weeks out for a longer period of time, or you can really power through, because you need to show your mind that you are the boss, you know? Next question is, or next comment is, thank you so much for answering the question. Went to a therapist for the first time throughout my recovery process. She basically said everything you've been teaching. Well, this is good. You know, there are good therapists out there. There's just very few of them. You're lucky. Which is awesome. The intrusive thoughts don't cause nearly as much anxiety as before, and they definitely are not as frequent as before. Thank you so much for your help. Yeah, exactly. And the person did hashtag keep pushing. Exactly. Keep pushing. Just keep going until you recover, you know? This is the end of the show. If you have any questions, please visit youhaveocd.com. There's my recovery program there. There's ebooks. There's articles on OCD recovery. So please check that out. For the next Q&A, if you would like to leave a comment or a question, you can leave it below any of the videos. I get them all, so it doesn't matter under which one you leave it. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next show.